Hello, everybody. Welcome. I am going to get our... Aha! She's here. Gosh, that was record time. I was saying I'm going to try and get Anya to join us. Hello, Anya. Welcome.
Hello. Hello. No
How are you
technical
doing?
issues today.
It's a miracle. It's a miracle. It doesn't always happen like this. That was about the swiftest one we've ever done. Thank you for joining us. Anya, I'm going to introduce you, if I may, but before we do that, so people know who I am, I'm the founder of The Tall Wall. The Tall Wall is a specialist coaching company. We're a team of coaches who deliver executive coaching and parental coaching in professional service firms, in financial sector firms, in corporates. And by parental coaching, we mean supporting parents as they exit work and as they come back into work. So we're working with organizations who want to really help parents through this big transition. That's me, but I'm very lucky to be joined by Anya Smirnova. I'm delighted you're here, Anya. Anya is a mum of two. She's a coach. She's a former lawyer, and she has a particular interest in the healthcare of women through major life stages, namely giving birth and the menopause. And we're lucky to have Anya, not least because she was one of 12 individuals invited by the UK government to their round table on improving postnatal care. And she speaks regularly with healthcare professionals on this really important topic of what happens to women when they have given birth. What's the impact on their physical, mental well-being, and therefore the impact on their confidence and on their professional performance at work. Anya, have I done you justice there in that introduction? I hope I have.
Thank you. Yes, it's so interesting always to hear someone else like talking about you. It's like, oh, yes. what an interesting individual. Thank you.
Aha, you are genuinely interesting. I've loved our conversations. The title of this session is 3 factors about postnatal health women and their employers should be aware of. Do you want to tell us more about this topic and what we're going to cover?
Yes, with pleasure. This, as you said, like I'm a life shift coach, and I find that the shift to becoming a parent, and we're talking about women in particular today, is one of the toughest in our lifetime, and it was quite significant for me. And what I was impressed to discover, just how much health has an impact on that shift. It just becomes like a snowball. And as a coach, I now know that it is a very strong undercurrent in coaching women returning to work. And so when we were thinking like what we actually want to focus on, 3 things came up to mind immediately. Is like, actually, what are they? Because they are underwater and they are really seldom discussed, and how they impact. And I'm sure you have many stories to tell. How do you see that in your work? And actually, what can both women and organizations do to support women? So these are the 3 factors we'll be focusing on.
Yeah. And let's start then with the impact. I mean, what actually happens to women post childbirth? And I know there's kind of no holds barred here, Anya, as in we're going to say it exactly as it is and talk about things that just don't often get talked about. So kind of buckle yourselves in if you're watching this, because we're going to talk about stuff that I think should be talked about more, because it's huge. The physical and mental toll of childbirth is enormous. It can be enormous. What is the impact, Anya? Can you talk more about that? Give us a flavor of what happens.
Yes. Well, I was shocked when 7 years ago I became a mum for the first time, and I was discovering these things just because I became very passionate about the thing, like trying to find answers for myself. But I was shocked how common that is. And what I'm talking about is 1 in 3 women will have a significant impact of health on their kind of overall well-being and work performance. And so the things I'm talking about, and I liked how you prepared the audience for that.
Just say it, Anya. Just
yes,
say it.
like I will just dive in. So the physical things that get impacted is our pelvic floor. And pelvic floor is the muscle that actually holds all our organs in place and is in charge of pee, poo, sex, and posture. And without doing like any other muscle, it needs to be trained. And without doing anything about it, all those 4 functions start to slide. And if you had a difficult delivery, or you had a tear, or you had surgical help delivering your baby, all this gets even more difficult to recover from, and there are side effects. The thing is, with these things, they're very common. As I said, like 1 in 3 women have them, some kind of effect on their pelvic floor. 1 in 2 women, I think, have what is called diastasis recti. It's when your belly muscles don't close completely, which affect your posture. And obviously, very important for office workers, we're sitting or we're trying to exercise. So this affects our ability to exercise. And 1 in 10 women have quite severe side effects of childbirth, and they have bowel incontinence. And when I say bowel incontinence, that means they have to plan toilet stops to commute anywhere. So this is the end, kind of in severe cases, women have to resign from employment. So these are the physical issues. And I was just shocked by the commonality of it. And the good news is that it's very common and it's all treatable. And it's about, well, that's why I became quite passionate about it. I think there is a lot about being aware what can be done and when to seek help. Because many women suffer in silence.
Yeah. I think they're just a physical side effect. You know, I've had 2 children, and you know, I can relate to some of those physical side effects. It's not easy. You don't just bounce back. Not everyone, some people do, but not everyone just bounces back physically. What about the mental side effects? You know, we've heard, and I've certainly seen this in our practice, that the instances of postnatal depression have grown. There was a study by UCL recently, and they said that women are twice as more likely to get postnatal depression in lockdown, just because of the nature of lockdown and people not getting the support. And it's, you know, it's difficult for everyone, but really difficult for new mums. So we've seen a higher instance of postnatal depression, but also things like just a lack of sleep and all the other things that can mentally impact our performance and our well-being.
Yes, the lack of sleep is just so common. I think it affects 100% of the population, especially new parents. And I love the neuroscience side of it. Apparently, sleep creates the hormones that are in charge of our patients. I mean, that explains it all, right? In terms of parenting and business negotiations. But yeah, mental health is huge as well. And there are so many elements to it. I mean, there are just hormonal elements of being pregnant and delivery and breastfeeding and the hormonal change. And there are your family circumstances and how difficult that the delivery was and the supports you have. All those can exacerbate. And also the circumstances and how you feel about the return to work and the stresses of work, the overwhelm of the logistics, and all this just adds to the struggle, I think, to the challenge of dealing with the mental health, because it's hidden. It's not like you can x-ray it and see if it's broken or not. It is a very subjective experience of whether you feel able to go like to be resilient, to go with like daily stresses that we all have, or it becomes too much and it affects how you work. An incredible thing I saw, sorry Helen,
no, go on Anya, go for it.
I am curious actually whether you felt the same. It's interesting how I work a lot with women who have mental health difficulties like postnatal depression or PTSD, and they continue to work. And interestingly, they are they are extremely capable. It doesn't affect mental health, doesn't affect your mental abilities. They're extremely capable in their professional life, but they just they have no power to deal with like the life challenges, the daily life challenges.
Yeah, I that absolutely resonates. I think there's a strong desire, whether you're really tired from sleep or whether the other end of the spectrum you have postnatal depression and it's still impacting you now. There is a desire. I've got my career. I want to carry on with it. I don't want to be treated any other way. I want to crack on and deliver in the way I was delivering before. I think, and I applaud that. I really applaud that. But I do think there is also a sense from the business that nothing much has changed. You become a parent, that is a huge event, but you're just coming back into work and we're sitting down and we're getting back into it. And God, there's so much more to it than that. There's so much going on physically, emotionally, mentally when you go back into it. That transition can be huge, even if it's the second or third child you've had. It's not always just the first, which can be the biggest shock. I think because it's such a huge change for everyone. You know, I had a client, I've had a couple of clients recently who had postnatal depression, still have it, and they're really worried about how they'll be treated at work because they've told HR they have this. They're worried about how it'll be communicated. So who will know? How will I make sure people in my team don't put too much pressure on me? Because when I say I can't stay online till 10 o'clock at night, which often lawyers are doing, I really mean I can't. It's not just, you know, I'm just a bit tired, I'm sort of getting myself into it. I genuinely cannot, because right at this moment in time, I feel like I'm watching myself on a video coming back to work. I'm going through the motions, but I'm just not there yet. And I'm going to always deliver. I'm still committed to delivering. I'm going to do the best job I can. But I think that positioning with your employer and the worry of how people might treat you is huge. And which brings us on to what can individuals do, what can women do, and then what can employers do to support particularly women through this transition?
Yes. Well, the one thing I like to chime about is awareness. It's like when you know better, you do better. And I mean awareness for women, for HR, for the line managers, which might be a particularly tricky point if line managers are men, and like how to go about having, what do you do with that awareness when you have it? With occupational health experts. So it's about awareness. And I think what awareness brings is it gives you the information, it gives you the tools to actually go and seek help, and you know when to seek help. And it just normalizes seeing it as just one of the common things to deal with, rather than suffering in silence.
I think that awareness is the first step to change, isn't it? So being aware, whether we'll come on to employers in a minute, but for the individual woman, being aware that it's so common, what you're experiencing is so common. You are not alone, and medical professionals will have seen this time and time and time again. So if you feel you want to get support, go and get support, because the help is there. Don't feel you're the only one, and be anyway embarrassed about it, because actually it's hugely common, as the stats that you mentioned at the beginning illustrate.
Yeah, and to put it in perspective in terms of awareness, I think many women and their HR and line managers expect that you will go to an antenatal course and they will tell you everything you need to know there. To put it in perspective, I've been running raise awareness events, and I had GPs and midwives come to those events and learn about these things. And they say, actually, we have pelvic floor covered like within 10 minutes of our course, for example. but it's like about being a lawyer, right? You learn about things, but then if you want to become you have an overview of different topics, but if you want to become a specialist, you need to dig deeper. And at the moment, there's digging deeper and better knowledge for GPs and health professionals and antenatal courses is just developing. So like for HR and head of talents who are listening, it's about just finding those resources, and there are more and more of those resources, and people who can actually run those raise awareness events in the organization, or make that information part of the returners pack, things like that.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, what can, well, let me put it this way. Really good organizations will have someone in HR that as a woman I can go to and say, look, I'm coming back. These are the struggles I'm having. I need some help. And they will, because there are one or two people that do this in the business, they have seen this a few times and they can support the individual. If a business doesn't have that in place, there are the awareness sessions. What else could they be doing to support individuals? I think awareness is brilliant. I'm just thinking about how can they make sure there is someone in HR who is a specialist and knows more in depth about the things that can impact women when they come back having had children.
Yeah. To me, it is the culture of trust. And HR, I think, particularly in the last 18 months, have been bombarded with all the health challenges that COVID offered. First, it was like musculoskeletal. Now it's all about mental health. And here is Helen and Anya chiming about women's health, like so many things to think about. And I think it's the culture of that your employees have a safe place to come and talk to openly, confidentially, but there is this place that you know that you will be listened to, and you know that reasonable adjustments can be made for your case. And it is about training. It is about training HR. It is about training managers. It's about communication skills that we as coaches come in. That's where we come in, particularly.
I was going to ask how, we're both coaches, and if an individual comes with these kind of challenges, we can do a lot to help them communicate this well. And there have been times when an individual has asked me to go to HR, not naming any names, and ask them who is the right person to talk to, so that they have the right channel and they can go and talk to the right person in their organization, which I think can be hugely useful. But the organizations that invest in coaching for parents, I think the best ones know that the coaching is, yes, it is about getting back to work and doing the best you can and really releasing your economic potential in that business. And that's primary. But it's also much more, it's about well-being and the whole person, not just the person that turns up to work and does a great job. It's about the whole person and how you are dealing physically, mentally, emotionally with this huge thing that's happened to you. I'm thinking about what else organizations can do, Anya. I know that good organizations will have proper healthcare support in place. Is there anything else that, I think awareness is absolutely key. Is there anything else we can add that organizations should be aware of or could be doing to support individuals?
What comes to mind is also, I think it's kudos to all organizations who are offering coaching and who are joining this conversation to learn more about how they can help their female employees. What I find, I think coaching is an amazing investment. What I find though is that when we are working with people who return to work, it's for HR to understand what actually happens in those sessions and where that investment goes and how much it returns back. And if we're just dealing with, it goes back to awareness. If there is awareness of the culture in the organization, then one-on-one time can be spent on more individual support, because no individual and no organization is the same. So when there is this kind of high level of awareness and trust in the organization, there is more space for a coach and an individual to actually discuss what's going on, actually talk about the undercurrents. It's also about coaches' awareness that these things happen, and rather than treating the symptom like short-term patching the symptom, for example, of a self-esteem, like working with self-esteem can have those things at the root of the problem. Like imagine a woman who has this, like in her mid-30s, like a young woman, but having this nagging thought of feeling that she can feel embarrassed, for example, at a meeting, and this thought actually overrides her ability, like, to be present for the work. And that return to work coaching can take this direction, for example, and that will have an impact, a huge positive impact on the woman's performance. And another thing in terms of kind of awareness where coaching stands is that some women, for example, some key individuals in the organization, they seek treatment, rightly so, for their health challenge. But the recovery happens between those sessions through lifestyle changes. And that's where, for example, return to work coaching can be most efficient, because it actually helps you to live different way, to find new ways of working and living with the health challenge while you are recovering. So I think that that's a distinction that many people ask me about, like, what is the role of coaching, for example, and when you go to a health professional. You go to the health professional for treatment, but actually the difference happens in the minds of people.
Yeah. There's no real substitute for that one-on-one, totally confidential, no judgment. My intent is always what's best for the coachee. There's nothing that can really replace that in these circumstances. When you have a woman who wants to come back, be at her best for work, but has had an impact from having given birth. Thank you, Anya. I know we're coming up to time. If anyone wants to find out more about what Anya does, Anya, your website, can you remind me?
So my website is Anya, Anya, Smirnova, SMIRNOVA.com. Yes.
And you're on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn.
Yes. Yeah. It's Anya Smirnova Coaching.
Brilliant. Okay. Thank you, Anya. Thank you for joining us. Check out Anya's website, all the social media links, and the same for us at the Tall Wall. Thank you, Anya. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Pleasure speaking with you.
Great discussion. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.